So here we have a rather sun-bleached 2013 Toyota AYGO 1 litre petrol engine with 62,000 miles on it. So it's come in today for a service. Several bits and pieces we're going to be doing on it. Starting off with an oil and filter change. Right, let's get this bonnet open. Oh, there it is. So I always start by pulling the dipstick out a bit, take the oil for the cap off, just to allow the oil to flow out from underneath a bit more smoothly. Right, so we're under the AYGO. We've got a 14mm sump plug here, and you can see the cartridge, or the metal spin-on rather, oil filter here. I'm going to use a single hex socket, which I generally prefer to use because it gives you a lot less chance of slipping and rounding things off and smashing your knuckles on something. Let's crack loose. Engine's warm, so it's not really hot. If it was, the oil would come out quite fast. So this might take a little while to drain down. I'll rest that homemade drain tray down here, and we'll let that drain for a little while. Right, so I've got a pair of slide grips here. I think I'll turn this wheel around a little bit actually, give me a bit more space. I just want to crack this loose and let it start draining. Yeah, that is tight. A little bit difficult to get the right angle on that. Oh, that's better. Certainly chewed it up a little bit. You can get various tools for removing oil filters, straps and clamps and things. I generally use these grips. I'll just leave that to drain for a little while, and then we'll come back and spin that off of there. So, although this has been dripping for a while, you can guarantee when I take it off, I'm going to get covered anyway. Quite a long thread. I'll just tip that out. So, one thing to watch out for is to make sure on your old oil filter that the rubber O-ring is still on there. You can see it's quite loose. Sometimes that has a habit of sticking to the housing up there. And you might not notice it and screw the new filter on, and clearly it won't seal properly. So just something to be aware of. Right, so we've got the new oil filter. As you can see, it says on there, apply oil to the seal face. So I'll just use a little bit that's dripping off. Doesn't need to be much. that'll do. It just helps to stop it from sticking. That doesn't look like it's got any debris on it, just residue of the old oil. So we'll spin the new filter on. That's it. And just nip it up by hand. And that's a good job done. Filter's ready to go. So time to put the sump plug back in. It's always worth checking the washer just to make sure it hasn't got any splits in it and it hasn't been crushed. They're usually fine, but you can pick up a new washer or even a replacement sump plug at your factors when you get your oil filter and engine oil. So that all looks fine. That's good. Just nip that up. Lovely. So we'll drop it down and get some oil in. Right, so when I picked up the oil, 3.1 litres was recommended. I'm going to go with 2.5 to start with. Run it up, let it stand for 3 or 4 minutes, and then check on the dipstick, see where we're at. It's just a lot easier to top up in dribs and drabs than having to get back underneath and drain out any excess. And as you probably know, every engine has different viscosity engine oil, and there's quite a lot on the market, but the retailer where you pick up your parts, they'll be able to tell you and recommend a suitable oil for your particular engine. Right, so that's 2.5. I reckon there was less than 2 litres came out of it, so whether this has got a bit of an issue with burning oil, because there's certainly no leaks underneath. Cap back on, dipstick back in. I just want to fire this up and let it tick over for a little while, let the oil circulate. Oil light's gone out, that's a good sign. You don't have to rev it up, particularly if you've had the engine drained of oil. Sometimes it can take a few seconds for it to draw up the new oil. So just let it tick over. I'm going to let that stand now for a few minutes and then we'll check the oil level. Right, that's stood now for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit low, if anything, and not overfilled. I don't really want to have to drain off any excess. Oh, good, yeah. That's round about halfway between the minimum and maximum, just under. So I'll grab a small quantity. So I'll put 2.5 in, they recommend 3.1. Looks like that's probably going to be about right, but that's not always the case. I'll just let that sit for a little while and dip it again. Keep doing this until you get to the required level. Okay, so I've done a couple of small top-ups. Hopefully that should be it now. And as you can see, That is slightly below the maximum mark, which is a good place to be. I mean, the longer this stands, obviously it will creep up very slightly. It's only been 2 or 3 minutes since the last top up. So that's great. It was about right. The recommended amount, 3.1 litres. So that's just about it for this oil and filter change. I'll give it a run round the block and double check for any leaks afterwards. Sometimes it's worth just putting your hand on the filter and you might be able to nip it a little bit more, but they're generally okay. Hopefully that'll help somebody. Thanks for watching. If you find our videos helpful, please hit like and subscribe to help us out. Nice one.